let's roll. Is that it?
What intrigues you about Turpin and just kind of his role as a receiver and also on special teams?
I mean, I think the first thing, when we started looking at it was, back when, Will McClay and his staff were rolling through the USFL tape, and obviously we have an excellent resource in Daryl Johnson. I think he did an incredible job, with the league. And but when you watch the tape, is the thing that jumps out is he's dynamic with the ball in his hand. And I think you got to always pay attention to that. And I think when we evaluate personnel, particularly when we're talking about special teams, when there's a priority there, you have to really make sure that the player can also add something on offense and defense, and vice versa, obviously. So his ability just to make plays with the ball, I think he's dynamic. So I think he'll be a really good fit, and I think we'll have a really good opportunity here.
How much y'all vet the off-the-field stuff at TCU, and where are you with that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that was part of it. Obviously aware of the situation with him coming out. I think like things in life, if you get a second chance, you do the work. My understanding, he was responsible and accountable, did the things that he needed to do. So he's well aware of what's expected of him, and obviously we don't that behavior is not not what we're looking for, and but this is a great opportunity for him. But yeah, that was definitely part of the process.
Understanding that he needs to be able to contribute on offense, how much of y'all's interest was based on his ability as a return man?
Well, I think that was the starting point. I think when I look at him, he's a returner, and then his responsibility on offense would be secondary. But he has some Tony Pollard type traits. I think from an offensive perspective. So once again, I think this is a really good opportunity, and and we've been talking about this for quite some time. So as far as the plan with Kellen and the packaging and so forth, this is I think I said it twice already. This is a very good opportunity for him.
Has he had a long enough break from the USFL to you guys?
My understanding is he's just getting warmed up. So he's definitely, I think, timing of bringing him in would ramp up. We'll probably just his plan today. We'll take him through the individual and see where he is, but he probably will not participate in any team drills. Obviously we have to more of the language in the classroom work, but he'll be doing the individual position wise, and then he'll work with Britt Brown once we go to the team periods.
How do you see him fitting into the competition you already have at wide receiver?
Oh, I mean, that definitely a part of it. I think just like when we talk about the receiver room, the ability to play more than one position. You have inside players, outside players. You have players that give you some dynamic from the backfield. So he definitely has those traits.
Is this a guy, if there wasn't a USFL, no one would know about him? Like these other leagues, how much do you think that's giving these guys opportunities?
Yeah, I think this is great for the professional game of football. I think anytime you have an opportunity to give other players that are not on the 90-man roster opportunities, and there's a lot of good football played in the USFL, and there's we've watched a lot of cut-ups of guys that that intrigue you, and I think some of it's timing, but yeah, I think this is great for these young players that are kind of at a crossroads or a fork in the road, and are looking for another opportunity. So and obviously ourselves and the rest of the NFL pay close attention, because you're seeing these guys get opportunities in the league.
You have one fullback on your roster.
Yeah.
You haven't carried a true fullback since you've been here. Philosophically, where are you at that position, given that you can have a defensive tackle or an offensive lineman come in a situational role?
Well, I think it's like anything. We all understand the dynamics of what a fullback's role is on your football team. There's a point in my career where I had 3 fullbacks on the 53, and but when you look at the numbers, and when you get into these personnel conversations, the fullback play time is always a challenge, and their ability to be a prominent player on special teams has to be part of it, because you just when you break it down, the two-back offense is not as just not as prevalent that it probably clearly wasn't prevalent as it was in the 90s and early 2000s, but it is coming back, where if you look at just the amount of base defense that's being used in first and second down, it's up to 24%. That's higher than it's been in quite some time. and that's more a reflection of the fullback position. So you're seeing some more teams, and it's just like anything. This league is such a cycle on the way schemes come in and go out, and which ones get emphasized. So when you look at our roster, we do have some players that can play in the one-back offense, but also can come back and absorb some two-back responsibility from the backfield.
Mike, when you have a kicking competition that doesn't have an experienced veteran like a Mason Crosby or a Greg Zuerlein, is your approach differ in what you expose them to in practice or particularly in games and trying to set up opportunities?
Definitely. I think we have a situation where it's going to be a very, very competitive contest for these guys. So, our conversations are to make sure that we're giving them the environment that they need to compete in. And I think the other obvious is, you only have the 3 preseason games, so you're going to have less there. So we got to really max out the opportunities in the practice structure.
So how does that manifest itself? Is it like putting them in front where they're not off to the side, but you got the teammates around
like
them?
throwing water on them and all them crazy stuff? No, I wouldn't want it. But no, I think it's more number of reps. Just making sure you give both guys a real opportunity. So I think the biggest change you'll see is probably in volume.
How do you protect Brian Anger? Do you put him out there?
I'm sorry, Mike. How do I?
Your punter, protect him. Just in terms
protect them, or I thought you said assess. Okay.
Oh no, yeah. Just from overuse and keeping them fresh for the regular season, avoiding faulty protection in the preseason to take out your Pro Bowler. You don't have a backup punter. How, if at all, do you work through that?
Yeah, it's twofold. The protection component's part of it too. But yeah, I think the beauty of having veteran specialists, you're talking about Brian in particular. Their diligence, really their attention to detail, and assessing risk and staying out of those situations. But yeah, he'll probably be used pretty much clearly like he was last year. So we'll be smart with that.
Zeke mentioned yesterday that he felt like he lost a step last season, especially when he was dealing with that PCL tear. How does a 7th-year running back regain a step after losing it? And in your career, what have been some of the ways to stay productively?
Well, the longer I'm in this league, the more and more I'm impressed with these professional athletes and Zeke in particular, what they do year round. This never stops for those guys. Their ability to create not only create the training regimen of what we were able to do with them internally, but what they do externally, and that's really the beauty of being a Dallas Cowboys. So we have great resources internally, but also we live in a phenomenal metropolitan area that has tremendous amount of outsourcing opportunities. So, and what these guys put into their training regimen is very, very impressive. And I think with that you're seeing guys have the ability to play longer. They take really good care of themselves. The rule changes are obviously helping that way too. But yeah, I think just really the full skill off-season work and really the in-season work too. Zeke in particular spends a tremendous amount of time in an area what I would call prehab. His warm-up routines are not normal. He spends a lot of time. So, and I think that speaks volume to his ability to play the way he plays.
Dak is entering his 7th season. It's going to be his 3rd with you. Where have you just kind of seen him grow? Do you think he's a finished product? Where can he continue to improve? Oh,
no, I don't think he's a finished product, but where I see him grow, I don't know if there's an area that he hasn't grown, to be honest with you. I think, you look at his physical conditioning, he weighs the same, but he's obviously more leaner, more flexible, so, he's put a tremendous amount of work into that, so you're seeing that pay off. I think his ability to throw from different arm slots, I think you're seeing an increase in ability there. So, and that's obviously a tribute to his training and the extra work that he puts in. And just like anything, this offense is built around making the quarterback successful, and this is Dak Prescott's offense, and I think you see him really taking ownership of that because at the end of the day, defense wins championships, but the Super Bowl is won by the quarterback. I mean, I think if you just look at that statistically, I mean, that's my opinion. That's how I view the journey and the vision of how you prepare your team and what the team needs to look like. So, and I think he's a guy that, emulates exactly what you're looking for, because he's always working to improve in all the areas. So, I think the answer would be he's improved in every area.
This first full offseason with you since you got here, what have y'all been able to do this year that you weren't able to do the last couple of years? And have you learned anything more? Have you gotten closer? What does that look like this offseason?
I would say the details are cleaner and tighter, just for something as simple as, we put a really, close, more higher def camera on him and with audio and his cadence, and because obviously our pre-snap penalties, particularly in the area of cadence, were too high last year. So, and obviously we have, we're young at the offensive line, so it's, something that we've, as an offensive, put a tremendous amount of time, extra time into. So, so just to see the details in the improvement in the area of cadence, so it's I would just say, the little things that you're always working to improve on: pace of operation, understanding, communication, collaboration after a play, walking over, talking to CD about a route, what he felt with his feet, what he saw from the corner, what he felt. So it's just, we're just getting better at all those things.
Mike, how does Dak take criticism and coaching from you?
I'll tell you what, I mean, Dak loves to be coached. I think that's a big part of it, and that's the joy of this business. As a coach, when you are able to have connection and relationship with players, and they improve and they just keep wanting more, and that's something that's always been consistent in my experience. I think I've always been cognizant of when you coach players, you got to make sure you're giving them something to improve, and he's definitely someone, he's a guy that's trying to get better every day. And I'm not just, coach speaking here. I mean, that's his approach, and he's very, very coachable.
So when you say that, how much truth can you give him when you're looking at him? You say the guy wants to be coached. So some guys want all the truth. Some guys, you just give him a little bit. How do you deal with him?
Truth?
Yes, sir.
I could be really funny right now, but I'm trying to be, press conference of substance. No. I mean, I like to think I tell those guys the truth all the time. I mean, I don't going to blow smoke up his ass. I mean, he gets enough of that from you guys. I mean, you guys love him to death, and rightfully so. So, no, I think that's part of your relationship. It's part of the communication dynamic. And like I said, he's a joy to coach. His personality, and his emotional maturity and things. He's off the charts. So, but he is extremely, extremely coachable.
So you said quarterbacks win Super Bowls. Quarterbacks win Super Bowl. Is it safe to say that you feel if you don't win a Super Bowl, it won't be because of Dak holding you back?
I thought I said something very insightful. Now you're trying to twist it on me. No, I mean, I think if you just clearly, I can remember Dick Vermeil when I was a young coach at the Kansas City Chiefs. He would always come. He had a very strong relationship with Carl Peterson, and Coach Vermeil was out of football at that time, and he would always come to training camp, and he always did this quarterback study on the quarterback's performance in the Super Bowl, and it was handwritten, and I always enjoyed that conversation with him, because he'd give me a copy of it. So when we'd talk quality control and analytics and all that thing, and he was really into it. And this is back in the early 90s. So, but if you just look at the history of the quarterback performance, I mean, I can only think of one at the top of my head that the quarterback did not perform the other guy. Just statistically in that game. But, defense is the thermostat. I mean, the defense, can win games for you, but they ultimately keep you in every game. So that's the way I view it. That's the way, when I lay out the vision of the offense, defense, special teams, it's all part of that complementary football formula that you're looking for. And, that's our approach.
Do you carve out any one-on-one time with Dak away from the facility or away from training camp? In other words, trying to establish that connection and that continuity between you two?
I think a lot of it's organic. We do schedule a meeting regular season wise, at the end of the week. So him and I will always talk on Mondays or Tuesday when he's in there about the about the pass game. So I think the organic part of it is the best. I mean, we stood in the locker room last night for 45 minutes and talked about everything except football. So. And that's what this thing's all about. I mean, that's the joy of coaching. That's the joy of being part of this organization. And it's the joy of working with these phenomenal players.
Mike, you said you want the team to be situationally better, and you need your players to be better in certain situations. How do you coach the coaches to be better in those situations?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just if you look at our template for our team meetings, we start off with our building blocks and how we're always working to enhance and invest in the culture, and then we get into the practice structure, what's done each day. But then I call it the situational prowess, and the thing that we go through. Like today is the first time we'll do third down. So, and it's just really making sure everybody understands the anatomy of what a third down is in the NFL. I mean, there's trends and characteristics that have been extremely consistent in this league, particularly in the game of football, for decades. So, and I think a lot of it's just common sense, because the one thing I like to do from a statistical standpoint is, you show them the volume, you show them how it was all put together, but at the end of the day, what are the two things or the one thing or no more than three that you can take out of this analytical or statistical report? And it's all about building that menu, and we use the baseball analogy. Every situation, there's pretty consistently fastballs. Everybody in the league does it. So third and one is a run situation. Just look at the stats. Fourth and one's a run situation. Fourth and two, it jumps up to a pass. So how does a half a yard make a difference? So just making sure, so obviously the runs in fourth and one, a third down, that's the fastball. Okay, then what's the curveball? What's the standard curveball? And then in the really good offense and defense have a changeup. So it's just, we just use those analogies and keep, trying to create buckets so guys can, take this and put it there and put it there. And now their focus is on 7 things instead of 17.
Speaking of situations, Zeke told us yesterday that at least the first 2 days, you brought up the final drive against San Francisco. And how much is that final drive and how that ended driven you guys throughout this offseason?
Well, I mean, our final drive to me is it's playoff football. I mean, you look at and this is something that's held consistent for as long as I've been doing these anatomies of each situation. I mean, playoff football, every game except I think one wild card game came down to either the last play or the last series. So that's the reality of it. And we all have the same amount of time to train and practice, under the CBA. So how much time are you going to spend on those situations? And that's something I do a lot of comparables back and forth on, making sure that, because if we weren't great here and we got 28 reps of it from last year, then we're going to increase that to 42. Those types of things. So, and really our game situation and game management focuses the first 2 practices are really things are the review of what we emphasized in the spring, and obviously the end of the game, the last play of the game is part of that. That's why we come out day one and had 2-minute end of half drill. We'll have another 2-minute end of half drill today, and then tomorrow will be 2-minute. So we cannot spend enough time on the sequencing and the understanding and the specific schemes and the tendencies that occur at the end of the game. So it's been. I've done more of it here than I have in the past, and it's a product of how I feel we need to work on.
Assess how you did it yesterday.
I'm sorry?
How would you assess how you guys did it yesterday?
I'll tell you what I told them. I thought we moved the needle. This thing's all about moving the needle each and every day. And in the work that we had yesterday, I thought it was a good start. I think there's a lot of those little things, day one things that you want to get right, as far as the huddle break and just all those little things you got to make sure you nip in the bud right away, so and make it clean. But I thought we had a nice day yesterday,
Last one right here.
I know we talk a lot about that final drive of that game, but end of the first half, you guys had an opportunity to put points on the board, and the start of the second half, back to back, you guys did as well, and that didn't happen. How much do you think that situation, in terms of that game, but just broader in terms of focusing on that in camp, is of importance?
Oh, I mean, the statistics speak for themselves. I mean, the ability to score going in and coming out. I mean, it's, we call it a double-double or a double-double with cheese. I mean, if you get a field goal in, a tight end going in, I mean, your percentage win goes up to 80%. So, so that's why we practice it. We emphasize it, and But at the end of the day, it's about getting these reps and trying to create this environment that's as close to the game as possible. And that's what I think we're doing we're off to a good start. Okay. All right, thank you.